Hello Prim friends. So in December I had done a video with a colonial early Prim type project that you could do yourself in your kitchen of the sugar cones. So I thought I would do something else here now for the month of January. Sort of a fun project, easy to do, although I'm not sure for part of it that you'd want to do with your children, but there is certainly a part that they could do. And I thought we would do a dried pineapple rind or skin. I see these in antique shops now and then or craft shows for about $10 each pineapple. And there is certainly quite a bit of time involved, but if you can find the pineapples when places like maybe Aldi's has them on sale for $1.19, I mean, it's your time. It certainly is the energy, your oven that you need to use, but it's not a difficult project to do. So I'll show you how I do it with this one, and it is a long project. It takes a couple of weeks, but I do have some images that I'll put up on the screen, and you'll be able to see what the finished product looks like, and then as you go through it here, we'll demonstrate. So this one that I have right here, you might be able to tell. Now I notice as I'm setting it down that it stands a little bit wonky, but it really doesn't matter because you're probably not going to be standing it on a shelf. You'll probably be more likely to set them sideways, maybe in an old bowl or a newer type bowl, just to give it some sort of a different kind of a look. I do recommend that if you are putting it on something that is an antique or precious to you, that you make sure you either have some sort of foil or something underneath between it and the wood surface, because there's nothing worse than having a piece that you forget. Maybe you put it somewhere off into a corner. Maybe it wasn't quite dried as fully as it should have been, and you do not want it to get mushy or have that fluid come out onto this, precious piece of an antique. So do make sure that you put it somewhere where that little part where it's touching a bowl or something, if it isn't completely dry, that it is protecting it. So when you start, I just cut out starting through here at the bottom of the rind. And you don't have to go in terribly far, but it's sort of like when you're cutting at the beginning of your pumpkin, but in this case we're cutting out that part in the bottom of the pineapple. Now it's not going to pop out because unless you have a really long knife and it's curved, it's just not going to come out. So once you get around the outside edges of it, then I usually just go through the middle of it and quarter it. So I've gone around the outside edge and now I've gone through, and then I'll do that again the other direction, and now a piece has just popped out. You could eat those parts as you get further into this. It's sort of all chopped up and they've got a lot of pieces of some rind and things, so I typically end up just pitching it, but you could take some time and be careful with how you're pulling those parts out. The other part of it, the other reason why it doesn't really make it one that you'd want to eat necessarily, is because as you're cutting these parts out from the inside, you're kind of chopping up the core right with it. And I don't know about you, but that's not a part of the pineapple that I want to eat. So you're just going to keep kind of cutting. Make sure your hand and where you're putting the knife through, that you don't want to risk having it slip out the side. You also don't really want to pierce the side, so you want that part to stay nice and solid for as it dries. And there is quite a bit of juice that's coming out here on the board now. But you're just going to keep going around and around, and you're going to keep cutting and quartering from one section from the top down and around the sides. And you don't want to make the bottom hole terribly large, but you do want to make it enough that you can really get in there with your knife and then eventually with a spoon to be able to get those inner parts out. So then you want to take your spoon and really just kind of scrape out what you're able to. Turn it a bit, and if that's all that was loose, then you go back in with your knife and start cutting again. When you get a lot of the inside of the pineapple out, and you'll be able to feel it, that there's really not much more that's coming out, and you'll be able to see easily up inside of the pineapple. There's still a lot here inside of this one. But once you get to that part, you do want to be careful at the very top of the pineapple portion from the inside, because the top, the green or the plant portion of it kind of has not exactly roots, but sort of a fibrous part that sticks down inside that pineapple. And if you cut too close to that or too much of that, then you risk the top of it falling off. So you do want to be careful how far you go with it, but you'll get a feel for it. I mean, you'd really have to be pushing and scraping quite a bit to have that part come out. So the more you cut, more of that is coming out, and more. So once that part is really cleared out and you have, there's no more real juice coming out of it anymore. I mean, this is actually just like flowing out. I don't know if you can see that, but it is dripping with pineapple juice. So that would be a long time to dry if you took something that wet and put it into your oven. So when you have it completely cleared out and you feel comfortable with how much is coming out, see, a lot of that is the core. So it just, I mean, it's too bad that it causes, you know, that waste, but, well, our camera turned off there for a second, so hopefully we're back to where, or I can figure out where it was, where we ended there. So you are just going to continue to scrape out what is on the inside of this pineapple as if you are scraping it out of, you know, out of a pumpkin. And you just keep kind of cutting crosswise is a good way to do it, and then you're just going to drop it. But you can see it has been so shredded that what's actually coming out is such a mixture of both the good eating type of pineapple and then of course also the core. So once you get to the point where there's really nothing else that's coming out, and I'm going to rush through this part a little bit. Once you get to that part, what I like to do then, so you can kind of see some of those stringy pieces that are coming down from the top. Let's see if you can see that in there. But that is where the pineapple top is sort of attached with those fingers through the middle. So you want to be a little bit careful in that area, not to be too rough so that you dislodge this top, because you want, that's important to keep that all together. So once you have that done, it's too wet really to be putting in the oven from this point. You're just getting too much moisture still that the oven would need to do, and you would kind of caramelize some of that sugar, and that's not exactly the look that you're going for. So at that point, when you have it really cleared out on the inside, I do not, but when you do, I'm going to move this board here for just a second. Okay. So when you get that cleared out, then, oh, here, I can show you too. I love these aprons. These are real linen aprons. They have the crisscross back so the shoulders don't fall off. I do have I do have several of these still available, so if you are interested in these, you can send me a message over on Tweedthistle Primitives, and we can see if we can get one of those out to you. I love them. I love them over leggings, but they aren't. I've had a couple people ask if it was an actual pinafore, and it is and it isn't, because it does have the crisscross, and that sort of would be open in the back. So it is a pinafore apron, I guess is the best way to describe it. So you're going to take several of these paper towels and just really carefully, but push that up inside of the pineapple. And if you need to, even take a wooden handled spoon, and continue to really push that up inside the pineapple. And then you can set it down somewhere, put it again somewhere safe that it isn't going to, it's wet. Moisture is going to even come through the skin. So put it on something like a cookie sheet, maybe with some parchment paper in it, so that it can really allow the moisture that is in that flesh inside the pineapple to get into those paper towels. And when you pull it out, they will be quite wet from all of that juice that is still in that fruit. So when you're finished with that part, when you've done that even a couple of times, and you pull the paper towel out from the inside, then you're ready to start baking it. Mine has several pieces, so I might need to use some tongs to get that piece of paper towel out of the inside, but you can see just how wet that is. Once you've done that a couple times, get a lot of the moisture out, then you're ready to start drying it actually in the oven. And when I do it in the oven, I have my oven set to the very lowest temperature that I possibly can. If yours goes down to 170 or 150, 150 would be ideal. If it doesn't, 170, that's fine. Just be a little bit more mindful, watch it. I wouldn't leave it, I would not leave it alone. I would be in the house when I was doing that. After about 4 hours, I would turn it off, let it cool a bit, and then at that point I would do it again with the paper towels, stuff it solidly inside with the paper towels, and then set it somehow so that it just, it may get a little bit soft feeling as it's warming up, but you want it to continue to have that nice shape. And the paper towels act to do that when in between the times that you have it in the oven. So I typically will have it in the oven, let's say on a Monday, take it out after the 4 hours. I will make sure that it's cool to the touch, and then stuff it firmly with the paper towels. Leave it with the paper towels in it for a day or two. I would then pull the paper towels out and then do the baking, that really low temperature baking again. Then do it again. And it can take up to a couple of weeks to get it to be really completely a dried pineapple. But when you're all finished, I know I actually had weighed mine to see what the beginning weight was and the end. And when they're really dry and that part is all, there's no paper towel or anything in it, I never, ever, ever would recommend you bake it with the paper towel in it, because I do not want you to have a fire. But make sure that there's nothing inside, and when these are completely dry, depending on the size, mine were down to about 6 ounces, which is quite light when you think about what they start out as. So I hope you enjoy trying this project. I know Aldi's right now, these were under $2 for the pineapples, but I have seen them as low as, well, it's been a while since they were 99 cents, but I have seen them as low as 99 cents. So, yeah, I hope you try it. I'd love to see pictures. I do have a group now on Facebook for the Cape on the corner at Tweedthistle Farms. It is a Facebook page, so if you want to go there and like that page, at least that way you can send pictures to me and I can see the results of what you're doing. So maybe you notice I look a little different than that video where I was commiserating with you about going to the mall. My dear friend Gina gave the sass back to me the other day. So you know, just like I know, when you've gone too long, you need to go get the sass put back in. So take care, everybody. I do hope that you like and subscribe and share with your friends on other prim channels or places where you know that there are others of like-minded that love this primitive antique type style of homekeeping, gift giving, and yeah, the early ways. So take care, everybody. I hope to see you in the next one.